Hello, welcome. This is Access Astrology. Three astrologers who get together every week and look at the sky, look at ourselves, look at the world around us, and use astrology to make sense of it for at least a minute. And I'm Mark Woltz. I'm speaking to you from New York City, and I have a New York City story. I came out of the subway the other day at 6th Avenue and 42nd Street, and it was the usual crowd milling about, running this way, that way, and so on. And all of a sudden I heard, Mark, Mark. And what are the chances? Millions of people, right? How often do I run into people? Not very often. It was Lise. Do you remember Lise? She came to our
Yeah.
gatherings in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it was really great to see her. I haven't seen her since before the pandemic.
Wow. Very cool.
For most of the people in the early 2000s, in the early aughts or the aughts, we met every Friday afternoon at three of us together. First, the East West Books. It was another place, then East West Books, and then yet another place, and the East. And it was wonderful to have that, what we do here in person for many years, which is why it was so easy for us to take it onto Zoom.
And Lise said she tunes into us here too. So
wonderful.
Nice. Yeah. We'll hear from her.
We'll hear from her. Okay. Very cool. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm joined now by two other astrologers.
This is Heather Rowan Robbins speaking to you from Ronan, Montana. I'm recently back from a quick tour of my past. I was back east for a memorial service, but I'm here in Montana. Got back late last night. And Anne
Ortley here in sunny Florida, where it's 78 out and the sun is getting ready to set.
Wonderful. Here we are speaking to you from 3 out of 4 corners of the country.
Right. Very cool. We just need somebody up in Alaska, I guess, right?
Yeah, or down in
or maybe
San Diego.
San Diego, yeah.
Yeah. So it is an interesting week coming into that new moon. The moon is the dark of the moon now.
Yep. A lot going on. And the new moon is very intense because it's on the fixed star Algol. And we also have the sun and Mercury Cazimi, which is a brilliant placement where your mind just pops with great ideas. But with the fixed star Algol, there's an intensity to this new moon. And if we remember Algol, her eyes, she's a star in the sky that blinks every 68 hours, the blinking eye. And she's in the constellation of Perseus, who slayed her and brought her back to Pallas Athena. But so there's an intensity with Algol. There's a beheading aspect too. Where people can lose their heads or get a little crazy. So we do want to kind of watch for that with this new moon. But also over the last few months, since September, we had the moon at 29 Virgo. We had the moon at 29 Libra. We had the moon at 29 Scorpio. We had the moon at 29 Sag, the moon at 29 Capricorn, 29 Aquarius, 29 Pisces, 29 Aries. Now we have a new moon at 26. So that's good because that allows us to actually start to grow things after all those the other new moons were like, end it. So you get to pick how many tomatoes you want to plant and how many zucchinis. And maybe there was too much eggplant last year. So we're going to be thinking about your gardening energy on this new moon. What is it you want to grow?
Yeah. And be careful what you don't want to grow because it is the kind of fertile land where just a seed can turn into a weed in no time. So think about your anger, your frustration. When people are doing bad things around you or on the news, instead of cursing them, focus on what you want to plant instead. Really work. There's plenty of other times for cursing them. Right now, this weekend, between now and Sunday, think about what you want. What do you want in the coming years? For you, your world, all around you,
what
and
in your garden. Want to grow? Yeah, yeah. And also, Venus is out of bounds, and the moon is out of bounds on the new moon. It is. So those give that amplifies the energy. Out of bounds planets accelerate everything, And Venus is in what we call mutual reception with Mercury, which means the two of them can change spaces. So that would make the Mercury be out of bounds and Venus be very happy in her in Taurus if she swaps. But with the Venus out of bounds, she rules all those Taurus planets. So they're all going to be a little wild and crazy. We think of Taurus as calm, cool, and collected, but this is kind of like mad cow disease in the heavens. And the mad cows, they were like, yeah, the dancing cows. Think of when you've ever seen those movies where the guy's sitting there playing the bagpipes and the cows come from all over, right? But that Venus out of bounds in Gemini is very much an active energy, and they're all talking to each other. You can see there's planets at 25, 24, 26. So those planets are all having conversations because they're all at the same degree. So it's like a big conversation cocktail party in your heavens, in your chart, but also in the heavens above. So it's a really interesting energy. Oh,
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and in a gathering that is going on, it's likely to be a star person with that Cazimi Mercury.
yeah.
That sun shines with Mercury.
Now, I've heard many different theories on Cazimi Mercury that basically when it's too close to the sun, you can't really feel them apart and there's no objectivity. And does that, at first it weakens Mercury, but when it's exact, it strengthens Mercury? What's your theory? How do you take that, Anne?
I always think of candles. When we were kids, my mother always had a candle at the dinner table. And when you hold your finger above the flame, it burns. But when you stick your finger in the flame where the little blue part is, it doesn't burn. The finger in the blue part is the Cazimi. So it's very intense. Obviously, there's a flame going around it, but you're not catching your finger on fire and it's not burning. So it's intense and focused is what I think.
And adds the heat to it. That's what I thought.
Adds the heat to the mind.
That describes that situation well.
There's some protection to it too. Because nobody else can get into that little blue spot. There's room for just me.
Just a little blue heart in there. Get the heart in it. And we call it the heart of the sun, and it's the heart of the flame, the little blue thing in there. Yeah.
That the Mercury can only be one sign in front or one sign behind the sun. It's always that close as far as we earthlings are concerned. And when your Mercury is different from the sun, they often don't always, like your basic personality and your thinking process can be, there's some tension there, which can really be helpful when you want to stand back and look at yourself. It can add some objectivity or versatility, but sometimes it's easier when they're both in the same sign and you can think and focus pure type with that. So I think there's some real advantages and disadvantages to having your Mercury in a different sign from your sun. But it can only do those three.
Right. And I like to think of it when it's in the head of the sun. It is announcing where we're going, and we're going to do this, and we should do that. It's kind of like the king is here. When I used to work at AIG, they would say the president is coming through in a week, and he's going to be on our floor in a week. So they would roll in the dumpsters. Everybody would clean their desks. They'd throw the papers in the rolling bins, and then we'd wait. And then the king came through, and of course he didn't come to your cubicle, so he wouldn't have noticed had you had crap on your desk. And then when it's behind the sun, he comes along and he goes, well, you know what the sun really wants you to do? I'm going to give you maybe different instructions than what the sun said, because he really needs it like this. So he serves more as an explainer as opposed to an announcer. But when he's in the sign of the sun, he's like the sun and I are in sync. We're working together. So it's an interesting paying attention to where he is energetically. So, because Mercury can never be more than 28 degrees from the sun.
And it is that announcement, the heralding. And in that darkening, and I am relieved that next week right now Venus and Mars are running sextile from each other, which is kind of juicy for spring romances and can be that it adds possibility to international negotiations, but sextiles never make you fix things. They offer a chance to fix things. They offer a chance
opportunity to
to
work on it.
opportunity. Good time for meet cute at the supermarket, but may not solve the international troubles. It could ease the way though. But they're both going from fire and air signs into earth and water signs next week, and going to drop us just as Mercury heads into Gemini. So the mind is going to get busier, but the emotions can possibly deepen. And I will be glad to see Mars get out of Aries, because there's, the international politics has been wild. And when Mars goes into Taurus, it's, people can really get entrenched and not budge from their position, but it will take some of the heat out. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Mark, how do you see that?
Yeah, it's time for Mars to go on to Taurus.
Even though it's got such great energy in other ways.
Yeah,
He's
but
certainly-
it keeps saying it's not enough. It's not enough.
Right.
He stirs the pot.
Yeah, or there's a threat. It's easy to threaten people.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
And
loves a
Mars
good fight.
Yep.
So we've got quite a few people. We've got 3 people of our clients to work with. Maggie here has a solar return coming up, and she wants us to look at that. And we're just kind of scanning her chart before we bring up the solar return. And how would you define a solar return for our audience?
Well, the sun is the circle with the dot in it, right? And that's the candle with 1 year to grow on, your birthday candle, and the 1 to grow on in the middle. And so what any return is, including a solar return, is when the planet returns to where it was when you were born. And as it's coming in for a landing, before it gets there, it's very exhausted and tired. If you notice, a lot of times people pass right before their big birthday. They die, like Betty White died a couple days before hers. It's just got this energy of waning. You're running out of gas. And then when the sun gets back to the sun's place, it got a new tank of gas to carry it for the whole year. And you get a picture of, if you get your $200 if you're playing Monopoly, it gives it a burst of life. And what we do is we look at that moment and we say to the sun, what are you going to work on this year? Or the planet that's having, because your Mercury can have a return, your moon can have a return, your Mars, your Uranus has a return at 84 years. So and everybody knows about the Saturn return when you're 29. So when the sun returns to the place of its birth, it goes, here's the picture of the year ahead. And so you look at the sun's position, what house it's in, because it's going to bring a focus to that house. And then you look at what house is ruled by Leo in the solar return, because that's where the sun is going to shine. And in your own chart, whatever house is ruled by Leo, or houses, in my case, my 6th house and my 7th house is ruled by Leo. So my sun works a lot, 6th house, and it works in service to other people in relationships. So when I was in computer programming, when I'm working as an astrologer, back when I used to work at the deli, and when I was in college, and the promotion was you got to peel potatoes rather than wait on the customers. But that was a promotion. You work in service too. Mm-hmm. So you look at the sun's placement by house, and then you look at what house Leo rules. And then there's a couple other ways to interpret the return. What's going on in the 10th house, how the public sees you, what's going on in the ascendant, what you want to do, and then what the sun says you're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And the sun in the course of 12 years will be in each house. It'll bounce around because he wants you to illuminate every area of your chart.
Now, I've heard many theories that you take, it's the planets that have just passed the cardinal points that have the most to say about the future, and the houses that are in the interstitial houses and the fixed houses are sort of background compared to the ones that are on either side of the cardinal points when you're reading a solar return. I'm not sure about that, but that's an interesting point. Someone asked how about the moon in a solar return? What does the moon mean? It always felt to me like that's the feeling the feeling tone for the year ahead.
Yeah,
But-
the emotional energy
Mhm.
that you're going to work with,
Mhm.
because it's a
Mhm.
matter. It's a snapshot of the day. It's similar to a little mini horoscope.
Mhm.
It's your mini horoscope for the year,
Yeah.
because it's a snapshot of the sun at where he was on the minute it came back to your natal position. So what's the moon say you're going to do emotionally for the year? What does Saturn say? They all have a role, because they're going to play a different role in your chart every year depending on where they are.
And the moon points to the emotional support that you give others and also that you need for yourself. So you read both and see
Yeah.
what's going on.
So in this case, this is an interesting combination. On July 4th weekend, there will be this year the Sun, the Mars-Uranus exact conjunction on July 3rd and July 4th. So it's going to be some interesting fireworks at home and abroad, I think, this year. And look at anything that you have. It's going to be trine my Mercury to the degree, so it's going to be interesting. But we'll see. She's got that in her 8th house. But I see that it's the dark of the moon in her solar return. And that's kind of a year of completion when I see that. I wanted any more thoughts on, I wanted to just quick check her, what's happening with her. And it's also coming into the last couple of years of her progressed lunar cycle
Mhm.
around the same time. I like to look for what echoes between the progressions and the solar return.
Right.
Uh,
Well, it's the Sun-Mars, progressed Sun's on Mars, and her moon's in Leo, trining her natal moon, coming to trine her natal moon in Leo or in
Mhm.
Aries over this
in
year.
Aries, yeah.
So yeah, so it's going to be a pretty active year. I mean, she's born on an eclipse anyway, so those
Mhm,
people,
mhm,
eclipse
mhm.
babies, tend to have a little more drama
Mhm.
in their journeys, and
Mhm.
it's up at the top of the chart. The sun is.
So there's Maggie's natal chart. Mhm.
Yeah. So the sun is within 15 degrees of the north node, 1 degree, right? So she's born on a north node eclipse. So her chart drives her in the direction it wants her to go. So this year, with the solar return top high, it's a big year for her taking action. Plus, it's right after Jupiter has been on her sun and her Mercury, really right now, inviting her for a new 12-year journey around the sun, because Jupiter comes to her sun and starts a 12-year story. I think he's actually there today. Pretty close.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a very dramatic year for you, it looks like. And then you
I
also
came back to
have
solar
in your solar return, you
Mhm.
have that big finger of God that we're living with right now, which goes from the Venus and the South Node in Virgo over to the Pluto and the Juno in Aquarius, and the Neptune in Pisces. So
And
that
Aries.
in
Yeah.
Aries,
Neptune and Aries, right.
so
The
that
sextile pointing in.
what's the dream of relationships that you're going to make to help you make your life work this year? So, and because Venus rules your ascendant, she's in Virgo for the solar return, and she's encouraging you to push forward. You know what that new
Mhm,
direction
mhm.
wants to be. Yeah.
I often see with 11th house issues what we learn vicariously by walking other people through the pain or through the process.
Mhm.
So it looks like that the people that she loves, she's got that dark of the moon, how does she, as a cultural mother, as somebody who's caring for other people, either in the family or as part of her profession, I suspect, how does she deal with their sudden changes? Because she also has that Uranus-Mars conjunction squaring that Venus from the 8th house. So helping other people through their journeys is going to take some of the heat off her personal experience, but will be a lot of cycle completing, finishing through the process, and how to just kind of to think of how not to re-engage difficult karma, but to complete cycles together. I think it's going to be an important part
Important
of this.
theme for the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Well, there's also with that Uranus-Venus square, there's some romantic possibilities coming in from that. So be open to it. You might be surprised.
Yeah. Always worth it to be surprised.
Yeah.
And here is Luna, and Luna asks, it's been recently gone through some huge changes, ended a 9-year partnership, moving out of the family home, which has been quite chaotic and traumatic. Recently been expanding my connection to others in a group space, and have many jobs. It's an extremely exhausted, and it's been a lot of pain. Any little interpretation, I'm working on trust, and I can't really see what's next. So what do we see as possible for what's next? Fairly young, born in 93, so not young, but young for us. And that we see her when we look at, she's got a strongly determined chart, even though with Cancer rising and Mars on the ascendant, she can come across as more defensive than she means. But it looks like for the next 6 months, there's so much of completion and mourning that just take really, really good care of yourself and really good personal responsibility. Be like, don't hold anybody else responsible for your happiness. Come back to yourself, tune into your heart, tune into what you need next, and slowly grow from there. I think once she gets that reestablished, she's starting to step forward. She's got a chart that's really good at taking responsibility for other people and becoming a leader later on, but it feels like she's got to hit a reset button. For the next 11 months, her progressed moon in Scorpio will suggest that it's a solo path, and not to, like, again, not making other people responsible for her happiness, but really taking responsibility for it, and then really re-engaging with the world. So slow down this next bit. What do you see, Anne?
I'm kind of fascinated by the Uranus progression and Vesta projection on her sun, sun gap. And that sun quincunx to the moon in Leo, and then it quincunx to the south node in Gemini. So that's a little bit of bouncy, we're just kind of in a bouncy mode, like here we are today, tomorrow we're doing this, today we're doing this. You do have Ceres on the sun, progressed sun on the Ceres, which is a seriousness around what you want to create. And I always liked 33. I call it Jesus year, when I do work with clients. You've had your Saturn return, you're up and running. So now what are you going to do with your life? And so it's a big year for decision making around new direction, and the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune in the top of your chart are saying to you, so what's your vision for the next big chapter of your life? And her Saturn and Neptune talk to each other. They're in a semi-sextile, so they have an uneasy relationship. But, it looks like, Luna, you need to do work you believe in. And if you believe in it, then it's good for you. And if you don't believe in it, it's not a good place to stay. So with that Saturn Neptune at the top of the chart, I would be like, okay, so what's your vision? What makes you happy? What drives your dreams with the Uranus on the sun? And it may be a change in the career that you've established so far, or some new direction because of Uranus on the sun, progressed Uranus on the sun. And then also with the sun on Ceres, it's like, okay, I'm going to create myself again. And Capricorns never really like to do that, but they also recognize periodically they have to. And because the planets are in the West and your Mars is retrograde in the first, this is very likely to be a big career shifting year. Like you're going to go, oh, well, I went to law school and I've got a degree, but I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. Or, oh, I did this and I've got that, but I don't want to do that anymore. Because there's a very strong rebellion in your chart, which I would encourage you to listen to. Doesn't mean you have to give up your day job, but you want to add in whatever the rebellion is encouraging you to do. Because the sun is opposite your moon in Chiron, and you have to love what you do. If you don't, you get really depressed. And, so that would be my advice. Mark, what do you see?
Yeah, you have to keep your own counsel through all of this. You are a Capricorn, and your progressed sun is now in Aquarius. So you're trying to bring to all the Aquarian people around you something that you know as a Capricorn that is important for them not to overlook. So really trace the threads of what you're tempted to do and think you're going to, and take responsibility, but really for yourself. If it doesn't make sense for you, set it aside. You've got plenty of other things to choose from. And don't ask your friends too much to tell you what they see, because you have Neptune conjunct the sun. It's very hard for people to know who you are. They're constantly seeing something that's not you. You may be projecting it, or they may be projecting it onto you and seeing it reflected back, but it's not accurate. So learn to keep your counsel, and you'll do well.
Beautiful. Okay, and the last one is Elise. And Elise, she is thinking of, she says, getting to watch 3 different astrologers in their element is such a joy and very informative. So that's wonderful. Thank you. And she is considered getting into local government by running for city council. It's not nothing that she's done before, and she's wondering if there's green lights or red flags. And I say, any good person who wants to get into government right now, thank you. But what we see for her, she certainly has that big personality. Leo sun conjunct Mars, Leo rising, but a Pisces moon. I mean, people don't always see how sensitive she is, but she's got that charisma that can do very well in public office. I think from her somewhat, if not tortured, complex and layered childhood, she might have, find that it's she has the wisdom to do a good job with this if she's willing to be a little thicker skinned than normal and really remember that that you need to be charming and it needs to be a personality contest, but what people give you a hard time, it's not because they don't like you, it's because the power dynamics behind them. Can you handle that? It's what do you, and any particular, it looks like it could be some really good stuff. Jupiter's coming across her ascendant. It's in her 12th house, but it's this summer going to be heading into her first house. And it's often a wonderful time with it sitting on all those planets where people suddenly is much more visible.
Get noticed more. Yeah.
Yeah, people are willing to support you.
And a progressed moon just went into Virgo. It's coming to conjunct Mars. She's ready to work. Roll up her sleeves and get and dig in the next couple of years.
2.5 to be exact. Yeah, because of the moon in Virgo. It also is a year where that progressed moon in 21 months, 22 months will get to your new moon in Virgo. And that, so you're in the dark of the moon phase. So there's a wrap up energy, even though you're planting new seeds. So it's kind of a beginning energy with the moon going through the second, but it also is, well, I don't know, is that really what I want? So there's a lot of the way I look at the chart, a lot of ambivalence right now. So in front of you, you do what's there, and then you go to the next, and then you do what's there. And that's probably the best way to handle it until you have that progressed new moon, because the Virgo moon does have a to-do list. It also tends to be a little tight financially, or have things it spends on financially that are a little in excess. I often see it when people buy a house and then they have to get the lawnmower and they have to get the lawn chairs and they have to so the house is okay, but then there's all this stuff to go with it.
Yeah.
And so with you, it's kind of like, okay, new beginnings. Also with Jupiter in your first, you're within childbearing age. So are we getting pregnant this year? And that would be a way that this energy could express, because Jupiter is coming to your series, which is a pregnancy aspect. And then it's going to be in your first house, which makes you get a little fatter. And you get fat. Well, Jupiter third first, people get fat, but we get fat with a baby, or we get
You
fat with
expand.
we
And
expand.
expand, how do you want to expand? Do you want to expand politically? You want to be visible, or do you get big? It's
Yeah.
can do any of those.
All those things count. So we'll go with all of them. And but also noticed and known. Mark, what do you see?
Yeah, really a lot of energy toward doing things for others. And it can wear you out, or it can have you chasing after things that you really should wait. So learn to be patient.
Mm-hmm. And I find, in that dark of the moon, while everything is in Virgo, if this job would be a good new beginning only if you can make it relevant to all the work you've already done. This last few years, the next few years for you is a review of everything you've ever known. Now, you haven't done it in politics, but have you done it elsewhere? Have you done it in organizations or groups or in the community? If you can pull together what you've learned on this, long journey, and might kind of like coalesce into a chunk of work that you do and show up and be part of, and then decide in a couple of years if you want to keep going on this vein or start something else entirely new. But I think if you can make it relevant to what you've been doing, it's a good idea. So we're here at the end of our half hour. And Mark, can you take us out with some thoughts on how to use this new moon in Taurus?
Okay. Take a moment to let's look at the Mercury Sun combination. It's Kazemi in the chart is, and somewhere in your chart, that's where that sun sits. So find where it is in your chart and think of how you can use the Kazemi to put your finger in the blue area and you don't get burned. But you're seeing all the colors of the flame, and look at them. Look at the house that the Sun and Mercury are in right now in this transit, and see what it's bringing to you. What can you learn from the flame? Okay. That's what you're doing this week.
Mm-hmm.
And
Busy
take
week.
us out, Mark.
Good. So thank you for listening. Tune in again next week and send in your questions.
And this is Heather Rowan Robbins saying goodbye from Ronan, Montana.
And Ann Ortley saying goodbye from Florida. As you can see, the sun is just setting, and I'm going to go sit on the balcony and watch the last drips of it go over into the Gulf of Mexico.
Good. And Mark Waltz saying goodbye from New York. And thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye, everybody.